All right, we're live here again at Buffalo Trace Distillery for another episode of Whiskey Wednesday with our Master Distiller Harlen Wheatley. And Harlen, looks like we're at a new place today.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to be able to talk a lot about expansion. The distillery has spent a lot of money. Some of the things I've talked to you about is spent a lot of money on trying to make more whiskey. The demand is growing, and therefore we have to grow the distillery. We talked a little bit already in previous episodes about cooking and fermenting and distilling. And you can distill all you want, but you have to put bourbon in barrels. And when you put the bourbon in the barrels, you gotta have somewhere to store it. One of the things we are known for is the fact that we have the oldest inventory of bourbon barrels in the business. So what that means is you have to expand your warehouse and have a lot more space if you're going to grow. So we bought the farm directly behind the distillery. It's about 250 acres that we bought, and we started expanding. It's been about almost 3 years now, and we started building these warehouses, and we're standing at the first warehouse that we built, which is warehouse AA, and we built that and started filling it with barrels. We fill it up with, when it's full, it's 58,800 barrels go into each warehouse to fill it up, and we fill them up as fast as we're building them. And we're in the middle of building basically one warehouse every 3 months. So our second warehouse went in here, and then our third warehouse behind that. That's also right there behind BB is our farm barn, and beside it is our silo that we use. So one of the things we did, we also, when we bought the farm, there were several cornfields on the site, and we thought, what better way to explore and experiment with different strains of corn. So we're still doing that. We experiment with different types of corn, and I think we're in our 5th year growing and putting it in those silos, and we'll make bourbon out of each year, and we'll see how that comes out in flavor. But we to the left, and one of the things we're planning to do is drive you around and kind of show you the lay of the land and a little bit more about the different warehouses, and we'll see the construction as it's going on. We'll talk about that in a minute.
That leads me to our first question on, I believe it was Facebook. Is there any future plans to grow trees for lumber for the barrels out here?
One of the things for sure, when we came up, there was a lot of wooded area, and what we did, the first thing we did is we scoped the area for white oak, and we found some white oak, and we actually sawed that white oak and turned those into barrels. So we've already done that. We've made a few barrels and put those away in the warehouses. We'll see how they age up, but we're also in the middle of experimenting with white oak as part of the UK white oak program, University of Kentucky white oak program. And so we're talking with them and understanding how we need to plant white oak and experiment with different types of plantings. And so we're in the middle of that, and we have some area designated to plant some more white oak and for the future.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to go in the warehouse, check it out, and you can really see the scale of this from the inside. But the service isn't great in here, so if it's a little spotty, stay in here long. So hang tight.
Yeah, we'll get a better view as it's kind of dark at first, letting you adjust to the light. But we've got, like I said, this warehouse is completely full, no empty spaces, and we're really happy with the quality so far. We check every lot of barrels that go in. We check them every 12 months and see how they're doing, and we're really happy with the quality. One of the things we did is we spent an extra $800,000 per warehouse to insulate these warehouses, and the reason we did that is because we wanted to mimic some of the characteristics of our existing warehouses, and we monitor temperature and humidities, and we feel like that we've got a really good match up here. If you look down the row, there's no empty spots, and 58,000 barrels are 7 stories. So this is 1 story, and we have 7 of these stacked on top of each other.
How many warehouses like this are on the farm so far?
Yeah, right now we've got 8 warehouses, and like I said, we're building one every 3 months, and we'll continue to build. We have plans for at least 30 warehouses, and we'll continue to grow that if we have to.
Great.
little lighter now.
Yeah. Another question as we're walking, I know we're going to go take a ride. One of the questions on Facebook, I believe, is, are you experimenting with other woods besides white oak? You had mentioned white oak, of course. That's what most barrels are made of. Is there any other experiments going on here?
Yeah, part of our experimental program is we look at all facets and variables related to making whiskey, all the things inside the field of making whiskey, and we try to focus on authentic things. So how does wood react with the whiskey in the barrel is a really important part of the process, and really something that we've focused on exploring. And we have tried alternate woods, the white oak. The one issue with that is the wood has to be watertight, liquid tight. And white oak, of course, is watertight. And we have to focus on woods that are watertight generally. Now, we have also tried different woods that create different flavors, like in chips and additions inside the barrel. So there's lots of different ways to create flavor. And wood is the easiest and most effective way, to change the flavor of whiskey.
Okay.
So the answer is yes.
All right, looks like we're going to take a ride, so we apologize for any wind noise we have, but bear with us. I think this is going to be a great tour.
All right. We'll take a little ride, show the one of the things that makes these warehouses kind of special is the fact that they're all heated, and we did a kind of an innovative way to heat these warehouses with hot water, and we have multiple zones within the warehouse where we can control that warehouse the way we want it to create the different flavor that we need. It's also a patented process, a patented heating system. If you look down through there, that's our construction going on our last warehouse. We got the wood set up and ready, and more going in. Of course, this is our 500,000 gallon fire system. Hopefully we'll never need it, but that's what it's there for. More warehouses going in over there. We'll head that direction. This one is just getting finished. It should be finished within the next couple of weeks. We'll be able to enter barrels into this one, and the distillery starts up in 2 weeks. We'll start putting barrels away.
And how long does it usually take you to fill one?
About 3 months we'll have it full. And that's with, that's the net. So we also dump barrels on a daily basis. So as many barrels as we dump, we fill plus this amount. This is warehouse GG. It's completely full.
Maybe talk about why the windows are open, and do you keep them open just in the summer, or is that a seasonal thing?
Yeah, one of the things that we do is we do try to control the airflow in the summertime. So since it is insulated, we don't want all that evaporation of the moisture of the liquid to be concentrated inside the warehouse. So in the summertime, we'll open these windows, and that creates a cross ventilation. We also have these vents in the bottom, so the ventilation will go in the bottom and out the top. And then even in the wintertime, once it gets too cold, we'll shut those vents off, and then we heat the warehouses.
These little vents in the stone down here?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then if you look up the top, there's a vent at the very top of the elevator shaft. And in the wintertime, all the extra moisture will go out those vents.
Now notice these walls right here. I'm sure this isn't just for parking.
No, every warehouse has its own containment system. And in case there's basically a catastrophe, then there's a drainage system for each one. It goes, hopefully we can control the spills if it happens.
Basically so your barrels don't roll away.
That's right. Rows and rows and rows of barrels.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. You can expand that to distillery and production all you want, but if you don't have a place to store it and put that whiskey, the rest of that's pretty useless.
Right. And we have to stay ahead, so you have to plan ahead. So we've already looked at, what do we need in 2034? How many warehouses do we need, and how much land do we have to have, and you have to plan pretty far in advance to get these built and ready.
When do you expect some of these barrels to start getting dumped for some of the products?
We're getting close on warehouse AA, the one we started. We've got about a 3-year-old, almost a 3-year-old bourbon in there, and so we're getting real close to be able to dump, some barrels. One of the things we did is we did pull some older barrels when we first put some barrels away. So we've already actually dumped some of the barrels, but they were basically finished in the warehouse AA. They didn't have their whole life there. And this is just a kind of a show you how they get the footers ready. They get the land plotted out, and they've got to figure out the containment around the area. Get enough area for the trucks to drive, make the foundation nice and flat, and then we start our building. That takes about 2 or 3 months to get that the way we need it.
Is this the construction site we could see at the beginning of the video, off in the distance?
It will be. We've got some. We're basically 4 foundations ahead, so they're getting the land, they're getting it all bulldozed and ready, and then this crew here is the concrete foundation crew, and they're building the next warehouse. So the one that we saw that was empty, we'll be filling that one as they're working on this one, and they'll get this one done before we need it. This is our foundation crew is done with this one, and then I'll move from this foundation over to the land I just showed you. We've got the tower crane. We set up the tower cranes, and the way those guys work is they build those ricks ahead of time in that station over there, and then the crane will come over and pick those ricks up and set the whole rick right into place.
So they don't build them in place, they build them and then they set them.
Yep, and they got the bolts all ready.
Yep.
The bolts are all ready, and they'll just bolt those ricks in as they build them.
Gotcha.
It's basically an assembly line like the Ford plant.
You really get a grasp of the scale of it down here on just the foundation too.
Yeah. Some of the wood that's going into the ricks. Most of all the wood is, poplar and some oak. Pine, a lot of pine, mostly pine.
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of wood inside those warehouses.
I used to know how many board feet.
Oh my goodness.
go over and see where they're doing the bulldozing, and they'll be getting ready for that next foundation.
And you mentioned before, but how many acres is the farm?
The farm's about 250 acres, and we'll probably build 14 or 15 warehouses here, and we'll evaluate and see where we sit.
And as a visitor, what kind of access are visitors going to get, you think?
Well, we're developing a farm tour, so we'll be able to show the visitors kind of what I'm showing you, some of the warehousing, and we've got a lodge that we built that we'll be able to show visitors. So it'll be a pretty outdoor type tour, and looking forward to getting that started. So this is another piece of property we got ready. Pretty much flat and ready. We set up an on-site sawmill where they can saw the boards as they need. We're getting laying down the finishing steps on the rock, and then we'll be ready for the another foundation. So we've got basically four spots ready for construction.
You can see the lodge in the background there too.
Yeah, that's the lodge, and then to the right is one of our experimental fields. This year we're growing some Indian corn and multicolored Indian corn, and should be interesting with the flavors come out of that.
Will you always try different things in that field, or?
Yeah, every year we try different variety and different color, or just depends on what we're trying to learn about. But generally, we focused on older strains, like 1800s strains of grain, and we're just trying to learn a little bit from our history, and we're analyzing how that corn's different and figuring out what kind of bourbon it's going to make. More wood.
Yeah. I can see the crow's nest on top of that warehouse.
Yeah, we did that as basically maintenance access to the roof, but it's a really good place, for people to go up and oversee the land and the different warehouses. I hope you got to tell a little bit about the lay of the land and kind of what we're doing, and we've just been really busy with the construction, trying to get these warehouses ready and really keep up with our distillation plans and all the things we got going on.
Yeah, so I think we're around that 20-minute mark, 19 minutes or so, and I thought it was a great tour, Harlen. I had a blast hanging on. I didn't bite the dust, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I took it easy.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say as we close out?
No, I think most people that have seen everything we're doing and all the expansion that we're doing, when they leave the distillery, they're pretty confident we're going to end up with more whiskey.
Yeah, you can see it here. So that expansion is definitely happening, and more whiskey to come.
Yep.
Well, thanks, Harlen.
Thank you.